the next person who I've known for quite some time, and this is a second-time TIF talker. So is this the first time someone's done a second-time TIF talk? I believe it is. So it's my honor to introduce Matt Mariglia from Starpoint. And Matt's official title is District Technology, I love this word, I'm going to mess it up, liaison. His educational background is he is a Buffalo State grad in social studies education with a master's in administration and supervision from Niagara University. He taught middle school and high school social studies for almost 20 years. It can't be 20 years. It goes fast, right? And has been in the tech world, tech side of things, for the past 8 years. He is a Google certified trainer and a Nice Skate influencer. His family information is married to his best friend Christine for 22 years and have a daughter named Allison, who is a junior at Niagara University, carrying on the alma mater. And his educational technology philosophy is technology is everywhere. We expect our mechanics and doctors to be experts in the latest and greatest tech. Why do we have lower expectations for the world of education? It can help us reach unreachable students and create a better, more efficient workplace for ourselves and our colleagues. With that, please welcome Matt Mariglia.
I guess I'm last, right? Yeah. So I got all the time in the world? Is that what you're telling me? No. Just before I get started, I was remembering the last time I TIF talked, and I was talking to Andy, and I think, Mike, you might have been either introducing or doing something that day. And I asked Andy, I said, did you have like a broken arm or a broken leg or something? And he couldn't be here, so we hid pictures of Andy's face. I don't know if anybody remembers that in all of our TIF talks. And I was desperately searching for my TIF talk today, and I was trying to find those pictures of Andy, and I just couldn't come up with them. So, anybody remember that? Clap if you remember that at all. A couple of you? Cool. So that was kind of cool. When I got here today, I saw Andy. I was like, great. There's nothing broken. He's here. That's important. So my title is My Jerry Maguire Memo. So much like Danielle, there was a lot of introspection in me creating this talk when I was asked to do it, and there's a degree of vulnerability in it for me. I'm not much of a crier, so I'm hoping I'm not going to cry, but totally admire you for just doing that in front of everyone. I just admire you for that, and I just wanted to say that out loud, rather than me approaching you as some weird stranger saying, hey. So the real title's up at the top, and it's crossed out, Rationale for Ed Tech Departments in Western New York. But my Jerry Maguire memo, I guess, had a better ring to it. So how I want to start is I want to ask you this. You know, have any of you in here ever told your boss how you really feel? Not how you feel at the moment or how you felt in the past, but how you really feel about things. I have so many conversations with many of you, and we have all the fixes, but I don't know how often we actually sit down and actually communicate those fixes, how do I say this, in a professional way. So that's really kind of the basis of my talk here, is a story about the time that I actually did that. I actually sat down and communicated some professional, real thoughts, and was pretty vulnerable to my boss. Anybody notice I just pointed this at my iPad? I just want to make sure that you... So, anybody in here know the movie Jerry Maguire? Clapping if you know the movie Jerry Maguire. If you don't, it's a pretty old movie. I'm old too. And really what it surrounds is this crisis of confidence that Tom Cruise's character, Jerry Maguire, has about his job as a sports agent. And he's got everything going for him. He's, trying to get the best athletes, and he's got a beautiful fiance, and, everything's going right. And in the middle of the night, he has this kind of crisis of confidence, and he spends all night penning this memo. In the movie, he argues it's a mission statement, but he pens this memo, which then is distributed company-wide My memo was not distributed company-wide, thank God, but his was. And it's kind of the inspiration a little bit for kind of where my mindset is when I was creating this talk, is like, the nickname for what I created, at least at my school between myself and my boss, is, oh, that was Matt's Jerry Maguire memo. So a little background on kind of where this came from. Life was pretty chaotic the last time I was here at TIF Talks. I actually communicated with a couple of people. I don't know, I'm remembering a conversation I had with Mel. Then I told her I was not returning as a tech integrator in 2019-20, and she was like, what? Like, what happened? And I said our district needed an ELA coach, and there was a retirement in social studies, and I missed the kids, so I was headed back there. Well, as Andy described so well earlier, Andy Bennett, about what happened during COVID, there are some things that happened during that time. And one was we were all kind of home. Well, there were some things that happened to me just before I went back in the classroom to teach 8th grade social studies in the fall of 2019. Namely, a ladder fell and hit me in the head. And I had a pretty severe concussion in August of 19, and I only lasted 2 weeks back in the 8th grade classroom because I couldn't see. I was having bouts of vision issues, like frosted glass and migraines were dropping over my eyes, and I couldn't see. So around the time of about September of 19, I was put out of work for about 4 months. And during that time, I desperately tried in dark rooms to think about where I was headed and what I had just finished, so I had time to think with my trusty pal, my cat Marley, laying right above my head, knowing something was wrong with me. And then tried to come back to work in January of 20, and that didn't work out. And then obviously a couple months later, as I was getting myself, back to the world of sight, the whole world changed. And I got a call from my superintendent that said, we need you. And I said, well, I can teach from home. And he's like, that's not why we need you. We need you because I don't think anybody knows how to teach online. And I think you're the only one that can show us. So I returned, and I like to call that part of return, the integrator returns, almost like a Star Wars kind of movie. The integrator returns, and I was not only back for the rest of that year, I had what I call pandemic guilt. Everyone was really upset with the way the world was, but I was back at work in my house where I could kind of cope with my symptoms. So I was secretly happy, but also upset because the rest of the world was upset. So it was a really interesting time for me. And towards the end of that time, I got asked to stay on another year for what we like to call the hybrid time. So from March of 2020, as it shows you up on the screen, to June of 2021, I had a very limited contract to get everybody through, remote days and hybrid learning and online learning and recording yourself and making sure your attendance reports show up, all these things that I did. So while I was stuck in a room during that hybrid year, I returned obviously in a classroom, but I was in a classroom alone, a big classroom by myself with a computer and a webcam. I had a lot of time to think. And what I like to call that time are my hybrid thoughts, okay? I don't know if any of you looked like this during the pandemic. It's probably my favorite picture from the Jerry Maguire movies. I looked at that and said, yeah, that could have been me during that hybrid time. Now, I'm not saying I did this in that room inside the school because that would be highly illegal, but I felt like that. So basically all of this kind of Jerry Maguire memo, I thought about, I wrote things down. I had a contract that was expiring in June of 2021. What did I have to lose to actually putting these thoughts into action? So these next few slides are going to be those thoughts, my process. I really thought a lot about the process that I had when I was literally trying to decide, what do I want to tell my boss? Did I click those lights on? I might have clicked those lights on. So due to the pandemic and the injury I had, I kind of had forgotten my original purpose. When I wanted to be a tech integrator and get into the world of tech integration or ed tech, I kind of had forgotten my original purpose. My original purpose was I just wanted to make things better than they were when I found them. So we had all these new things called Chromebooks, and we had all this Google stuff going on. I just wanted to help people make things a little better, and then when I was done, it would look better, and someone could say, oh, he helped do that. That was really my original purpose. It wasn't a huge goal, it was a small one. So as I thought during that hybrid time, I said to myself, you know, what was I like in 2015 when I decided to, when my district asked me to do this job? What was I like? These plans that I had written down, these things I had thought, I had all these crazy ideas of, oh, we could do this and we could do that. During that time, had I really like forgotten who I was? You know, now I'm in the hybrid mode and I am, you know, putting out videos like I'm supposed to, and I'm attending meetings like I'm supposed to, and I'm doing the job for the year that I have the way that I'm supposed to. So am I just another shark in a suit? Am I just another one of those teachers that's complaining about how bad everything is, but I'm only doing this for a year, and then next year when everything's normal, I'll be okay? Oop, did I change that too fast here? This is hard to see. Sorry. So the first thing I asked myself was, did my boss have any idea what it was that I had done over the past 4 years or that I was currently doing? I love this quote. I absolutely love this quote. It's an up at dawn, pride-swallowing siege that I will never fully tell you about. And if any of you have seen the movie Jerry Maguire, that picture right there describes a lot of us when we're talking to each other. We're really expressing how we feel. We're really giving each other our Jerry Maguire memo. Like, do they really understand what it's like to do this job? And had I swallowed my own pride and thought I was doing the job only the way other people thought I should do it, not the way I really wanted to do it? Did I have any vision? Was there anything in the tech integrator world or in the ed tech world that I could change? And could I actually be honest with the people who had control to change it about the way things actually were? So after sitting in that room for, felt like forever, it was a full year, but it felt like forever, I actually had to put some of those thoughts down. After I was loathing kind of what had happened in my life, and after I had all this introspection and it's time to think, I understood that my time was ticking away. You know, June of 2021 was coming, and I was going to be a social studies teacher again in September of 2022. And that my voice, at least at the district level, wouldn't be as great as it would be at that particular time. So what on earth can I share or tell my boss that would actually outlast me? My original purpose. How can I make things better than they were when I found them? So then I began a search. You know, what was out there that actually existed that took my thoughts about the ed tech world and actually matched in terms of real evidence? How could I help my organization? You know, was I wrong about what I was thinking? Would I research and read things and find things that actually were the opposite of what I was thinking? And then there was a spot where, can I actually do this? Can I actually write this down? Can I actually come up with something that my boss would understand, that would be able to be used to outlast me? So, as the most famous line in the whole movie shows, you know, show me the money. It's now time to actually sit down and do it. So somewhere around January, February of 2021, I realized that all these things I had been thinking about, even laying on the couch, not being able to see, needed to actually come into reality. I had to get this off my chest. I had to get it out there. I had to give it to my boss so that she would be able to read it and make some sense of it. So what do? Do I write it? Do I draw it like Dan might draw it? Do I have to do that? Like, what am I going to do? Can I argue for the betterment of my organization in a succinct yet understandable way so that this ed tech world that I loved, that I was going to be leaving, would be better off than how I found it? Then, as Jerry says over and over in the movie, it's a mission statement. It's not a memo. So I thought, okay, this can't just be like a page or scribbled down or something. It's got to be a vision. How do I want my ed tech department in Starpoint to actually be if it exists, what should it look like? What should it do? What vision should it be? And it's going to mean a lot more than just a memo. It's going to be a vision. It's going to be my vision for how things should look. Luckily, I actually found the first thing that I scribbled down about my vision. I used Google Drawings. I know it's tough to read. I drew this star because I work at Starpoint. I drew the star in the middle, and I started to scribble on one side all the things that I thought IT did, and I started scribbling on another side all the things I thought an integrator should do. And then I thought there were times when those things crossed over together. And when those things crossed over, it took expertise from both worlds and would create something, this kind of star with a circle around it. And what on earth would I call it? Well, I would call it Spartan technology. Starpoint's logo is a Spartan, so this kind of logo was created. And then obviously this is something that's currently up to date. This is the most current version of that vision that I wrote down in January and February of 2021. And it exists, because there it is right there, from a scribble to that vision that's there. It's not done, it's not perfect, but it exists. So this was the show me the money part. Like, hey, if I'm going to professionally show this to my boss, what's it going to look like? I also searched for an actual picture of myself on video from that time, and this is a picture of me from that time. I don't know, I probably was talking about Google Meet like a lot of you were. This is the actual thing. Like, you might say to yourself, well, hey, Matt, I know the movie Jerry Maguire, he didn't draw a picture, he actually wrote something. You know, he wrote a pretty extensive thing. And by the way, the writer of the movie, actually, it's online somewhere. The actual, I don't know, 4 or 5 page actual Jerry Maguire memo actually exists, and you can read it. And somebody in the education world took it and turned it into an educational type memo, so they do exist. But this is my actual title page from what I handed my boss in right around January, February of 2021. And from what I remember, this is what I said to her. This is something I've been thinking about, so here you go. Not any kind of inspirational Jerry Maguire words like, you know, help me help you or show me the money. It was more like, here you go, here's this piece of paper. And the title of it was Rationale for Ed Tech Departments in Western New York. Something I felt that was lacking in our area. Fully fledged departments that had all kinds of services towards IT integration and things that combined together. I have nothing to lose when I hand this to my boss. In less than 5 months, I'm back in the classroom. And the tech integrator, that person that I knew or that job that existed in my district would be gone. Maybe forever. So you're probably wondering, well, Matt, did she read it? Yeah, she read it. That's one of the credits to my boss. She actually took the time to see that I was serious about it, even though I just kind of flopped it on her desk. She read it. And you also might be asking, you know, you must still have a job, that's why you're standing here talking, so you didn't curse or anything like that, which I didn't. Here's the results. Okay? The vision that I wrote down was actually put into practice. That doesn't always happen. We actually have an organizational structure for this thing we call Spartan Technology Ed Tech Department. We even have that logo on our Ed Tech Department door. And every day I look at it, I walk by it, and I'm just amazed. The other result from that was a pretty poignant moment for me. I know it's going to sound silly to some of you. It was a remote day. You guys remember remote days? In April of 2021, around that time. I was laying on my bed at 3:45 in the afternoon, exhausted from explaining how Google Meet works one more time to somebody. And next to me was my trusted partner, my cat, Marley, believe it or not. And while I was laying there, I heard some meows and realized that my phone was ringing. And I picked it up, and it was my boss. And she simply said, I read what you wrote. We should have never let you go in 2019. Do you want to come back? And of course, I said what all of you would say. I got to think about it. You know, I wanted to scream yes through the phone where I blew her ears out. But I also felt like, okay, never say yes to anything right away. You want to stop and think. And I walked down the stairs to my wife, who was working remote as well. She works at UB. And I said to her, hey, what do you think about this? You know, now they're asking me now. I'm supposed to be gone in 2 months. I'm getting all ready for 8th grade social studies. And she said, you know you're going to do it. Just call her back and say yes. And that's exactly what I did. Because I was what I felt at the time vulnerable, and I wrote this, and I had a superior who actually read it and thought it was a good idea and then fought for me to return, and I've been back ever since. I never ended up going back into the classroom. It kind of taught me a lesson, and something I want to share with all of you today. Perfect way to end the day here. What's your Jerry Maguire memo? Have you ever written down your vision for your district? Have you ever put it to paper? You ever told someone? You ever had the strength to say, hey, this is what I think, and this is me being as professional as I can be, and hand it to someone who maybe has the influence to try to make it happen? And yes, there are budgets, and yes, there are school board votes, and yes, there are all these constraints that we have. But I would say to you, what's your memo? If you have it in your head, write it down and turn it in. It might end up the way mine did. Thank you.